The rain-slicked alley in Chicago's South Side reeked of garbage and regret, and that's where I killed my first alpha. Not with claws or fangs, God. No, that would have been too clean, but with a syringe full of wolfsbane extract. Plunged straight into the throbbing vein of his neck as he loomed over me, his breath hot and rank with entitlement. "You're nothing," he snarled, his golden eyes narrowing to slits. But by then, the poison was racing through his veins like liquid fire, and I watched the strongest enforcer of the Midwest pack crumple to the wet pavement like yesterday's news. My hands shook as I wiped the rain from my face, the weight of what I'd done crashing down harder than the storm above, because in that moment, I wasn't just ending him, I was ending the lie I'd lived for 25 years. I bolted from the shadows, heart slamming against my ribs like a caged animal, the distant howl of sirens blending with the phantom echoes of pack howls that had haunted my nightmares since I was a pup. Freedom tasted like bile and blood on my tongue, sharp and metallic, because I knew this was only the beginning. The alphas I'd deceived would hunt me to the ends of the earth, and the one man who'd made me believe in something more, David, would never forgive the beta scum I'd always been. The city lights blurred into streaks of neon as I sprinted through the labyrinth of Pilsen's graffiti-tagged streets, my sneakers slapping against puddles that mirrored the chaotic sky. Chicago in November was a beast of its own. Wind off Lake Michigan whipping through the canyons of brick and steel, carrying the faint, acrid scent of the packs that ruled this concrete jungle. We weren't the wolves of fairy tales, whispering in ancient forests. No, we were the shifters of America's underbelly, woven into the fabric of a nation that pretended we didn't exist. Alphas like the ones who'd raised me, ruthless, hierarchical, drunk on their own dominance, controlled everything from Wall Street boardrooms to the shadowed corners of union halls. Betas? We were the ghosts, the ones who cleaned up their messes, who dreamed in silence because to speak out was to invite the caller. I'd been born Elias Kane, but that name died the night my parents handed me over to the pack at age 10. Their eyes hollow with the shame of siring a defective. No alpha fire in my blood. No instinctive command that made lesser wolves bow. Just a beta's quiet resilience, the kind that let you blend into walls. They rebranded me Michael Hale, a fabricated alpha pup from a fallen East Coast line, complete with forged scent markers and a backstory etched in lies. Survive, my mother had whispered through tears, her fingers brushing my cheek one last time before the enforcers dragged her away. Disguise yourself, pup. Become what they need you to be, and so I did. By 16, I was the pack's golden boy, lean and sharp-featured, with hazel eyes that could feign the predatory gleam of an alpha on command. I learned to growl low in my throat, to let my canines elongate just enough during hunts, to mask my beta pheromones with synthetic alpha boosters smuggled from underground labs in Detroit. It worked. I rose through the ranks, enforcer to lieutenant, all while nursing a secret rage that burned hotter than any full moon. The alphas patted my back, called me one of us, oblivious that every nod of deference was a blade I twisted in silence. But then came David Ruiz, the rogue alpha who'd crashed into my world like a freight train derailed by fate. It was 2 summers ago, during a tense summit at the PAC's Lakeside Lodge north of the city, a gathering of Midwest alphas to carve up territories amid whispers of human encroachment. The air hummed with testosterone and territorial piss. Wolves circling each other in human skin, sizing up weaknesses. I was there as Hale the enforcer, posture rigid, scent laced with artificial dominance. When he walked in, David, with his broad shoulders straining against a faded Blackhawks hoodie, dark curls wild from the wind, and eyes like polished obsidian that saw straight through bullshit. He wasn't pack-born. He'd clawed his way up from the barrios of Little Village, a lone wolf who'd rejected the collars of both human gangs and shifter hierarchies. "I don't kneel," he'd said flatly when the Alpha Prime demanded fealty, his voice a gravelly rumble that sent shivers down spines, including mine. Our first clash was electric. I'd been assigned to escort him to quarters, a polite way of saying tail the threat. He smelled like sage and street rain, raw alpha without the polish. And when he turned those eyes on me, sizing me up like prey, something primal stirred, not fear, but hunger. "You reek of lies. Hail," he murmured as we walked the dim hallway, his breath ghosting my ear. I froze, pulse thundering, but played it cool, flashing teeth in a wolfish grin. "And you reek of trouble, Ruiz. Keep it leashed, or I'll have to put you down. Lies. All of it." That night, alone in my room, I stripped off the scent patches and let my true beta essence flood the air, soft pine and vulnerability, and wondered what it would feel like to let him see me, really see me. What started as wary glances across strategy tables bloomed into stolen moments. Late-night runs along the lakefront, where we'd shift under the cover of fog, our wolf forms weaving through the dunes, his sleek black fur against my unremarkable gray, no alpha bulk to boast. He'd tease me about my restrained speed, oblivious to the truth, and I'd laugh it off, the sound freer than I'd felt in years. In human form, it was beers at dive bars off Halstead, shoulders brushing as we talked philosophy over greasy fries, him railing against the pack's iron fist, me nodding along, heart aching with the secrets I hoarded. "The world's big enough for all of us," he'd say, his hand lingering on my knee under the table, calluses rough from mechanics work. Betas, omegas, even us alphas who don't buy the alpha supremacy crap. Why chain ourselves to the old ways? I fell hard, like a cliff edge collapse. David wasn't like the others. He saw strength in the quiet, romance in the rebellion. Our first kiss happened on a rooftop in Wicker Park, city sprawl glittering below like a promise. He'd pulled me close after a heated argument about pack politics, me defending the system I'd faked loyalty to, him dismantling it brick by brick, and when his lips crashed into mine, it was fire and forgiveness. Rough at first, all teeth and desperation, then softening into something achingly tender. His fingers threading through my hair as if I were the only anchor in his storm-tossed life. "Michael," he whispered against my mouth, voice husky with want. "You're the first one who makes me feel human." I melted into him, beta heart pounding, knowing this was the lie that could destroy us both. For months, we danced on the edge. Secret rendezvous in abandoned warehouses, where we'd lose ourselves in each other. His body a map of scars from street fights and rogue hunts, mine unmarked but trembling under his touch. He'd trace the line of my jaw, murmur Spanish endearments that made my skin flush, and I'd arch into him, chasing the illusion of equality. Sex with David was revelation. No dominance games, just mutual unraveling, sweat slicked and breathless, his growls turning to gasps as I claimed him back. "You're mine," he'd say afterward, curled around me like a shield, and I'd bury my face in his chest, inhaling the truth of him, terrified that one slip, one whiff of my unmasked scent, would shatter it all. But cracks formed. The enforcer I just poisoned? That was Victor Kane. No relation to my birth name, but close enough in cruelty. Second in command. suspicious of my alpha inconsistencies, after a botched raid in Gary where my instincts faltered. He cornered me tonight, post-shift, demanding a scent test in that alley, his claws itching for blood. Prove it. Hail, he'd sneered, and in the panic, with David's face flashing in my mind, I'd chosen survival. Now, as I ducked into a safe house on the edge of Logan Square, a dingy walk-up rented under a false name, the weight of betrayal settled like lead. Victor's body would be found by dawn, and the pack would bay for the killer's head. Me, the beta imposter. I collapsed onto the sagging couch, stripping off my soaked jacket, the syringe still clutched in my fist like a talisman. My phone buzzed. David. Where are you? Summit recon tomorrow. Need you sharp, sharp. If only he knew how dull my edges truly were. I typed back, fingers numb, running late. Be there, lies upon lies. But as I stared at the ceiling cracks mapping out my fractured life, a spark ignited. No more disguises. Victor's death was my severance from the pack, from the facade. I confessed to David, lay bare the beta soul beneath, and pray his love was stronger than alpha pride. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, the city stirring with the rumble of CTA trains and the distant wail of ambulances, likely converging on that alley by now. I showered off the night's grime, the hot water scalding away phantom blood, and dressed in my enforcer best, dark jeans, leather jacket, the kind that screamed untouchable alpha. One last performance. The summit was at a nondescript warehouse in the meatpacking district, neutral ground where alphas from Chicago, Milwaukee, and Detroit hashed out borders over coffee laced with suppressants. David was already there when I arrived, leaning against a rusted beam, arms crossed, his presence a magnetic pull amid the posturing wolves. You look like hell, he said by way of greeting, pulling me into a shadowed alcove for a quick, fierce kiss that tasted of coffee and concern. Rough night, something like that. I forced a grin, but his eyes narrowed, that rogue intuition flaring. Talk to me later. Alpha Prime's got announcements, rumors of a traitor in the ranks. My stomach twisted. Already, news traveled fast in our world, scent on the wind. The meeting dragged, alphas snarling over maps, but my mind was a whirlwind. David's knee pressed against mine under the table, a silent anchor, and when it broke for recess, he tugged me outside into the biting wind. Spill, Michael. You're off, sense all wrong. Panic clawed up my throat. Here, now, but the lie was a noose tightening, and Victor's eyes, accusing even in death, haunted me. David. There's something I need to tell you. He turned, wind tousling his curls, expression softening. Whatever it is, we've got this. You and me against the packs. Remember, I opened my mouth. The words, I'm a beta, teetering on the edge, when a howl split the air raw, furious, echoing from the south. Enforcers burst from the warehouse doors, eyes wild. Traitor's scent, beta infiltrator, hails the mark, time fractured. David's face drained of color, betrayal dawning as rough hands seized me, dragging me to my knees in the gravel. Michael, he whispered, voice cracking like ice. And in that instant, as the pack closed in, I saw my freedom slip away, not in poison or flight, but in the shattering of the one heart I dared to claim. The gravel bit into my knees like tiny accusations, each pebble a reminder of the fragile empire I'd built on sand. Alphas encircled us, their forms blurring into a wall of snarling faces and bared fangs. Familiar enforcers I'd called brothers, now eyes gleaming with righteous fury. The wind carried Victor's death scent, faint but damning, mingled with my unmasked beta essence that the struggle had ripped free from its chemical cage. No more patches, no more growls, just me, Elias Kane reborn, trembling under the weight of exposure. David stood frozen a few paces away, his broad frame taut as a bowstring, obsidian eyes locked on mine in a storm of confusion and hurt. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, voice low thunder rolling toward the Alpha Prime, a grizzled veteran named Harlan with silver streaks in his wolf pelt and a scar bisecting his lip from a long-ago human-shifter war. Harlan stepped forward, massive hand clamping my shoulder, claws pricking skin. "It's Hale, or whatever this pretender's called," Harlan growled, yanking my head back to expose my throat in submission pose. The humiliation burned, but worse was David's flinch, the subtle recoil that whispered liar. Beta scum, wormed his way in years ago, poisoned Victor last night to cover his tracks. "Scent doesn't lie," the pack murmured, a chorus of disgust rippling through them. Disgrace, deceiver, death. I wanted to scream my truth, to explain the forging of Michael Hale as a desperate bid for air in a world that drowned betas like me. But words stuck, choked by the raw ache in David's gaze. He'd trusted me, loved me, and I'd let him build castles on my forgery. "David," I rasped, tasting blood where I'd bitten my lip to stifle a whimper. "Betas didn't whine. Not if we wanted to survive." "It's not. I did it, but—" "Quiet!" Harlan's backhand connected with a crack, stars exploding behind my eyes, copper flooding my mouth. Pain was old friend, but this being unmasked before the man who held my heart was vivisection. David surged forward, only halted by two enforcers grabbing his arms. "Let me hear him out," David snarled, alpha fire blazing, but doubt flickered in his eyes like shadows on water. "Michael Elias? What is this shit?" The pack dragged me inside, chaining me to a support beam with silver-laced manacles that seared my wrists, a cruel irony since betas healed slower anyway. The warehouse reeked of rust and rage, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry hornets. Harlan paced, dictating my fate with theatrical flair, trial by combat, the old way, where an alpha challenger would rip the truth from my throat. But eyes kept drifting to David, the rogue whose alliance we'd courted, now a wild card in the unfolding drama. Interrogation came swift and brutal. They stripped me to the waist, searching for tells, the faint beta scars on my ribs from childhood suppressants, the lack of alpha bulk in my frame. Harlan leaned in close, breath sour with entitlement. "How long? Pup, how many hunts did you fake? Beds did you warm with that silver tongue?" I spat blood at his boots, defiance my only armor. "Long enough to see the rot in your strength. Alphas like you, chaining us all, beta and rogue alike." Victor was closing in. I ended him to breathe free. A murmur, some shock, others nods of dark agreement. Not all packs were monoliths. Whispers of reform had circulated, betas organizing in secret forums online, rogues like David pushing for equity. But Harlan laughed, a bark that echoed off concrete. "Free? You're a parasite. And him." He jerked a thumb at David, now allowed to approach under guard. "Your little romance. Did the rogue know he was rutting a fraud?" David's face was a mask, jaw clenched so tight I feared it'd shatter. He knelt before me, close enough that I could smell his sage and rain comfort, now tainted with betrayal's bite. "Tell me it's not true," he whispered, voice breaking on the edges. His hand hovered near my cheek, aching to touch, but withdrew as if burned. The runs, the nights. Was it all a con? To what? Spy for some beta uprising. My chest caved, tears stinging unbidden. Betas cried easier, emotions unbound by alpha stoicism. "No," I choked, leaning into the chains that rattled like my resolve. It was real. Every kiss, every promise. I hid because in your world, I'm nothing. A beta born to serve, not love. But you made me want more. To be Michael for you, not just survive. His eyes searched mine, turmoil churning, love warring with the alpha instinct to dominate, to punish deception. "You lied to me. About everything." The words landed like blows, softer than Harlan's but flaying deeper. He stood abruptly, turning away, shoulders heaving. "I need air," he stormed out, leaving a void that the pack filled with jeers. Hours blurred into torment, questioning laced with slaps, demands for accomplices. I gave nothing, my mind replaying David's touch, the way he'd whispered me amour in the dark. By nightfall, as they debated my execution, a guard slipped in, David's scent on him, a hastily scrawled note, "Midnight. East Fence. Run if you can." Hope flickered, fragile as a match in wind. Was it mercy, or a deeper betrayal, luring me into the open for the kill? I didn't care. In the shadowed hours, as the pack slept off whiskey-fueled rants, I worked the chains with a loose nail from the floor, wrists raw and weeping. Freedom or death either beat this cage. Midnight tolled from a distant church, and I slipped free, wolf form silent on padded paws, gray fur blending with moonless gloom. The east fence loomed, chain link topped with barbs, but beyond it, David's silhouette waited, a darker shadow against the city's glow. Heart pounding, I shifted human, clothes torn and clinging, and approached warily. "You came." His back was to me, fists balled at sides. "Couldn't let them gut you like roadkill." "Not after." He trailed off, turning, face etched with anguish. Moonlight carved hollows under his eyes. He looked wrecked, as if my lie had hollowed him out. "Why?" I stepped closer, chains of caution snapping. "You should hate me." "I do." The admission hung, raw and ragged. Then he closed the gap, hands fisting my shirt, pulling me flush against him. "And I don't." "Goddamn it. Michael Elias, you idiot. You broke me." His mouth claimed mine, desperate and devouring, tasting of salt and fury. Kissed back, pouring apology into it, hands roaming his back as if mapping forgiveness. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed. "Run with me," I begged, voice hoarse. "Leave the packs. We can disappear Canada, the Southwest. Build something real. No lies." He hesitated, alpha pride warring with the man who dreamed of equity. Sirens wailed distant, hunt commencing. They'll never stop. And me, trusting a beta, but his grip tightened, decision crystallizing. "Screw it. You're my weakness, cabron. Let's go." We fled into the night, paws pounding pavement, weaving through alleys toward the Dan Ryan Expressway. Adrenaline surged, but so did doubt. Could a rogue alpha truly abandon his fire for a beta's quiet flame? As the skyline shrank behind us, David's howl joined mine, a duet of defiance. But in my gut, I knew. Betrayal's shadow lingered, and the pack's reach was long. We holed up in a Fleabag motel off I-94, the kind with flickering vacancy signs and walls thin as promises. Dawn painted the room in bruised purples, and we collapsed onto the sagging bed, bodies entwined in exhausted relief. David's fingers traced my scars, learning the beta map of me, while I buried in his neck, inhaling truth. "Tell me everything," he murmured, voice soft against my temple. "From the beginning." So I did, words tumbling like confessions in a confessional. Birth in a forgotten Ohio trailer park. The handover to the pack. Years of emulation. Fake ruts induced by pills. Hunts where I'd lag just enough to seem strategic. He listened, anger flaring at my parents' cowardice, softening at my resilience. "You're stronger than any alpha I know," he said finally, pulling me closer. "Hiding that takes balls." Lovemaking followed, slow and reverent, as if remaking us from scratch. No rush, just exploration. His lips on my collarbone, my nails down his spine, breaths sinking in the quiet. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of us, he spoke the fear aloud. "The pack. They'll brand us traitors. Bounties. Hunts. My old crew in Little Village, they're loyal to Harlan. Then we keep moving." I propped on elbow, memorizing his profile. "You've got rogue smarts. I've got beta cunning. Together, unstoppable." He chuckled, low and warm, but shadows lingered. A knock shattered the moment. Housekeeping, or worse. We tensed, but it passed. That afternoon, over diner coffee 2 booths down from Truckers, we plotted, head west to the Badlands, where scattered betas ran underground networks, free from alpha overlords. David called contacts, voice coded in street slang, while I scouted online forums, shifter dark web, whispers of safe havens. But peace was illusion. By evening, as we crossed into Wisconsin's dairy flats, my burner phone buzzed, an anonymous text, "Ruiz knows." Betrayal from within. My blood iced. David's crew, or pack spies? I showed him, his face hardening to stone. "Not possible," he growled, but doubt crept in, mirroring my own. Trust, once fractured, mended crooked. That night, under a blanket of stars near Madison, we made love again, fierce and reclaiming, but his eyes held questions. And as sleep claimed him, I lay awake, wondering if freedom was just another disguise, one we'd wear until it choked us. The Badlands beckoned like a mirage, jagged spires of rust-red rock rising from South Dakota's endless plains, a labyrinth where outcasts could vanish into myth. We ditched the interstate for backroads, a borrowed pickup rattling over gravel that mirrored the tension coiling in my gut. 3 days on the run, and the text haunted us, "Ruiz knows." Betrayal from within. David swore it was pack psyops, a ploy to sow discord, but his calls to Little Village had gone unanswered, voicemails echoing into void. "They're laying low," he insisted, jaw set as he gripped the wheel, but his knuckles whitened, betraying the alpha's innate territorial paranoia. I believed him, wanted to, fiercely, because without trust, we had nothing. Nights blurred into fevered oases, motels with heart-shaped tubs where we'd soak away miles. his hands soaping my back with gentleness that belied his strength. Campfires in state parks, where stories flowed like wine, his tales of barrio scraps, my fabricated alpha yarns giving way to beta truths, laughter mingling with embers. "You're a poet in wolf's clothing," he'd tease, nuzzling my neck, and I'd melt, the romance of our rebellion blooming wild and unchecked. Yet conflict simmered. Alphas craved control. Betas, adaptation. Small frays erupted, me urging caution at gas stations, him bristling at my skittish beta vibes. "I'm not fragile," I'd snap, and he'd pull me close. Apologies murmured against skin. "Never said you were. Me Vita. Just hate seeing you flinch." Deep down, I knew it was the lie's residue, eroding our foundation like acid rain on stone. We hit the Badlands at twilight, the sun bleeding orange across hoodoos that clawed the sky, ancient sentinels to forgotten shifters. Our contact was Lena, a beta matriarch who'd carved a haven in the park's underbelly, cabins disguised as ranger outposts, tunnels laced with echo chambers to muffle howls. She met us at a pullout, wiry and silver-haired, eyes sharp as flint. "Kane," she said, no surprise at my notoriety. Beta networks buzzed faster than alpha decrees. "And Ruiz." Bold, bringing an alpha into the fold. David stiffened beside me, but I squeezed his hand, our signal forged in flight. "He's with me. No collars here, right?" Lena's laugh was dry as dust. "Collars are for dogs. Come, supper's on, and tales to trade." The haven thrummed with life. 24 souls, betas mostly, a smattering of rogue omegas and defected alphas, all scarred by the hierarchy. Over venison stew in a communal hall lit by lanterns, stories poured, whippings for insufficient dominance, forced matings that birthed broken pups. David listened, uncharacteristically quiet, his fork scraping plate as a young beta named Theo recounted a raid that left his sister collared. "Alphas like Harlan, they're dinosaurs," Theo spat. "But ones with teeth." David's eyes darkened. "Not all of us." But the room hushed, skepticism thick. I felt the pull, his isolation mirroring mine. Two misfits in a sea of the wounded. That night, in a cabin scented with pine and sage, vulnerability crested. Rain pattered the tin roof as David paced, shadows dancing across his bare chest. "They look at me like I'm the enemy. After everything, running with you, ditching my life." "You're not them," I said, rising from the quilt, arms encircling his waist. He leaned into me, forehead dropping to my shoulder, a rare surrender. "You're the alpha who saw me. That's enough." He pulled back, cupping my face, thumbs brushing cheekbones. "Is it, God? Elias, loving you, it's like chasing smoke. Beautiful, but slips away." His kiss was slow burn, igniting nerves, bodies aligning in the dim glow. We moved together with aching precision, him above then me, equality in every thrust, gasps harmonizing with thunder. Afterward, spent and slick, he traced my beta mark, a faint crescent on my hip, remnant of my first suppressed shift. It's you. All of you. I want it, scars and all." Tears pricked. Romance, in its purest form, was this acceptance without conquest. "Then stay," I whispered. "Build with me." Dawn brought counsel. Lena gathering the haven for my trial, not pack justice, but communal vetting. I stood before them, recounting Victor's end, the disguise's birth. Murmurs swelled, some vilifying the kill, others hailing it revolution. David spoke last, voice steady. He saved himself. That's no crime, it's courage. His hand found mine, public claim, and cheers erupted, sealing our place. But euphoria soured swift. Midday, as we hiked slot canyons for solitude, David's phone, a sat burner from Lena, chirped. He glanced, face ashen. Little village. They. Fuck. He thrust it at me. A video, grainy but unmistakable. His cousin Marco, thick as thieves since pups, spilling to Harlan's enforcers. Ruiz is compromised, running with the beta pretender. Knew about the poison, helped cover. Marco's eyes gleamed with greed, bounty evident. Betrayal landed like a gut punch. David's roar echoed off rock walls, shifting mid-stride to Black Wolf, tearing at scrub in frenzy. I followed, gray form nuzzling his flank. But he snapped, teeth grazing my shoulder, not breaking skin, but warning. Stay back, human again. He slumped against stone, face buried in hands. Marco. He knew our spots, our plans. Fed them everything. Rage warred with grief in me. For him, the family fracture. He chose power over blood. You're better. Am I? David's laugh was bitter, eyes wild. Alpha blood, it's poison. Makes us blind to loyalty's cost. He lunged, pinning me to the warm rock. Kiss bruising, hands roaming with desperate need. We coupled there, earth and sky witnesses, fierce, reclaiming, his body a battering ram against despair. Don't leave me, he gasped, buried deep, vulnerability cracking his voice. Even if I'm broken, never, I vowed, holding him through aftershocks, hearts sinking in chaos. But the betrayal's ripple hit hard. Scouts reported pack scouts sniffing borders, Marco's intel pinpointing our trail. Lena called evacuation scatter to auxiliary sites. Chaos reigned, packs dismantled, pups wailing, elders murmuring prayers to moon mothers. David and I fought side by side, shifting to hairy intruders, his alpha bulk felling too, my beta agility dodging claws, nipping flanks. Blood-scented air, not gore but scratches, the fight more skirmish than slaughter. We won the day, but Haven fractured. As dusk fell, fires dotting the exodus, David pulled me aside. This is on me. Marco's grudge, old beef over territory. I should have seen. No, I cupped his jaw, forcing eye contact. It's the system's rot. Alphas pitted against their own. Emotion crested, tears tracking his cheeks. Alpha tears, rare as eclipses. We clung, the romantic core of us unyielding amid ruin. Westward again, to Colorado's ghost towns, where minor spirits whispered of reinvention. There, in a boarded-up saloon-turned-bunker, conflict peaked. A beta elder, distrustful of David's tainted line, challenged him, rogues bring ruin. Send him back, purge the alpha stain. David's temper flared, fists clenching. I'm not your dog to heel. The room tensed, shifters rising, but I stepped between, voice steady. He stayed when others fled. Judge actions, not blood. The elder backed down, but rift lingered. That night, alone on a creaky porch overlooking moonlit mesas, David broke. Maybe they're right. I'm a liability, betrayal magnet. His voice cracked, hand trembling in mine. Love you too much to drag you down. Panic surged. Then fight for us. I pulled him inside. Bodies colliding in urgent symphony. Lips mapping hurts. Limbs entwining to forge unbreakable bonds. You're my alpha. My equal. We define strength. He yielded. Gasps turning to affirmations. Release a catharsis. Dawn found us resolute. But whispers of greater threat loomed. Harlan mobilizing full hunt. Marco's lies painting David as co-conspirator. As we rolled out, pickup groaning under supplies, I glanced back at the Badlands, our first taste of fragile freedom. Betrayal had scarred, but emotion's depth, it armored us. Yet, in David's pensive profile, I saw the climax brewing. A confrontation not just with Pax, but with the alpha within him that might yet consume us both. Colorado's ghost towns were specters of America's manifest destiny. Boarded facades leaning like weary elders, sagebrush whispering through cracked streets, the air crisp with pine and promise. We claimed an abandoned assay office in St. Elmo, its walls papered in faded wanted posters that eerily echoed our own fates. Here, amid rusted mining carts and starlit vigils, our love deepened into something mythic, not the frantic passion of fugitives, but a steady burn, humanistic in its quiet defiance of bloodlines. David adapted, shedding alpha bravado for chores, chopping wood with beta efficiency, his laughter echoing as he botched sourdough under my tutelage. City wolf, through and through, he'd grumble, flour dusting his curls, and I'd steal kisses, tasting yeast and home. Nights were symphonies of touch, slow explorations by lantern light, his fingers learning beta sensitivities, mine coaxing alpha vulnerabilities. You make me whole, he'd murmur, spent and soft, head pillowed on my chest. Romance wove through the mundane, sunrise coffees on sagging porches, debates over dog-eared paperbacks scavenged from ruins, dreams of a cabin life beyond the hunt. But conflict festered like an untended wound. The betrayal from Marco gnawed at David, manifesting in restless shifts under full moons, his black wolf pacing perimeters while my gray form trailed, a silent sentinel. Can't shake it, he'd admit post-change, sweat slicked and shaking. Family's supposed to be pack, unbreakable. What does that make me? The fool who trusted wrong. Human, I'd counter, drawing him baths in a clawfoot tub fed by a solar-heated spring. Alphas aren't immune to hurt. It just hits harder. Soaks turned intimate, water lapping as we traded vulnerabilities, my fear of abandonment echoing his isolation. These moments humanized us, stripping shifter savagery to reveal souls adrift in a world that demanded dominance. Word spread through beta vines, Harlan's horde swelling, rogue alphas recruited with promises of glory and territory. Bounties doubled, mine for Victor's murder, David's for aiding insurgency. We fortified, rigging tripwires with bare bells, stocking jerky and journals. I chronicled our odyssey, pages filling with prose that blurred memoir and love letter. David's eyes hold galaxies, obsidian depths where I drown willingly. In his arms, beta becomes boundless. Climax brewed in late December, snow blanketing the peaks like a shroud. Scouts, fellow betas from Badlands remnants, brought warning. Pack vanguard, 20 strong, closing from the east. Marco at flank. David's face hardened to granite. They want a reckoning. Fine, let's give it. I protested, heart lurching. Not you against them. We're equals, fight smart, not savage. His grin was wolfish, but eyes held fear. Alpha's curse. Amor. But for you, I'll try. We planned guerrilla. Ambushes in ravines. Diversions with flares. Allies trickled in. Theo from Badlands. A wiry Omega named Jax with sharpshooter aim. Counsel in the assay office crackled with tension. David deferred to me on traps, a concession that swelled pride. Your cunning saved us before, he said, hand on my knee under the table, thumb circling reassurance. The attack came at solstice, moon full and fat, casting silver on snowdrifts. Howls shattered midnight hush, pack wolves cresting ridges like avenging specters. We met them in a narrow pass, shifters exploding from cover, claws rending, fangs flashing in controlled chaos. David was tempest, black fur a blur as he downed 3, roars shaking pines. I flanked, beta speed weaving through legs, nipping hamstrings, herding foes into pitfalls. Mid-fray, Marco emerged, tawny wolf, eyes gleaming triumph. He lunged for David, betrayal incarnate, bodies colliding in snarling heap. Time slowed, snow arcing in crimson flecks, not gore, but surface wounds, fur matted, breaths heaving. David pinned him, jaws at throat, but hesitated, brotherhood's ghost pleading. Yield, he growled human, shifting mid-hold, naked and bloodied in the drift. Marco spat, shifting too, sneer twisting lips. Weak. Rutting a beta? Harlan'll carve your heart for supper. He struck low, claws raking David's thigh, tearing flesh. Fury ignited. David retaliated, fist cracking bone. But mercy faltered. Marco's yelp was pup-like, evoking shared boyhoods. I intervened, barreling between as enforcers closed. Enough! My howl, beta shrill but fierce, halted the melee momentarily. Allies pressed advantage, driving pack back, but Marco scrambled up, limping, venom in gaze. This isn't over, cousin. Blood calls to blood. Retreat sounded, horns blaring from valley. We limped to shelter, victors but battered, bruises blooming, spirits frayed. David collapsed by the hearth, wound staunched with rags, face ashen. Should have ended him. Alpha way. I knelt, cleaning gashes with whiskey-dipped cloth, hands steady despite tremor. Your way. Mercy over murder, that's strength. Our eyes met, emotion raw, love's depth in his grateful nod, my fear of losing him to vengeance's pull. Healing stretch days, blizzards sealing us in. David's fever raged, delirium summoning ghosts, Marco's laughter from youth, Harlan's decrees. I nursed him, broth and stories, singing off-key folk tunes from my Ohio days. Stay with me, I whispered through endless nights, his hand limp in mine. Vulnerability peaked when lucidity returned. He wept, alpha walls crumbling. Scared I'll become them, the monsters who birthed this hate. You're not. I curled beside him, bodies spooning for warmth. You're the man who chooses love. Intimacy followed, gentle amid frailty, kisses like medicine, touches healing deeper than salve. He entered me slow, eyes locked, each movement a vow, together, unbroken. Spring thawed resolve. Allies departed, havens shifting like sands, but we stayed, Rebuilding St. Elmo into Beacon. David reached out, encrypted messages to Marco. Not recrimination but olive branch. Family isn't blood. It's choice. Silence answered, but seeds planted. Yet climax's echo lingered. One eve, as we walked snowmelt streams, David halted, voice thick. The run changed me. Seeing you fight not as pretender, but partner. I get it now. The disguise wasn't lie, it was armor. Tears blurred my vision. And you, my rogue alpha, tamed by beta heart. He laughed, pulling me into embrace. World fading to heartbeat. Tamed? Never. Enamored? Eternally. Our kiss sealed it. Romantic crescendo under budding aspens. Hands wandering paths well-trodden yet ever new. But humanism demanded reckoning. Word came. Harlan dead. Challenged by a coalition of rogues and betas. Marco's testimony turning tide. Guilt's gnaw proving stronger than greed. Pacts fractured. Reforms whispered. Beta rights codified. Alpha dominance diluted. Our story, mythologized in forums, sparked change. David and I, we planted roots. Essay office blooming with solar panels and herb gardens. No grand gestures, just daily devotions, morning shifts in tandem, evenings lost in each other. Betrayal scar faded to lesson, conflict to growth, love to legend. Summer gilded St. Elmo's ruins, wildflowers rioting through cracked boardwalks, the mountains a verdant embrace that mirrored the tentative peace we'd forged. Months since the past battle, and the world shifted not in cataclysm, but quiet revolution. Beta networks swelled, alphas like David testifying in virtual summits, voices amplifying the marginalized. Marco's silence broke with a terse letter, saw the light. Starting over in Denver. Forgive? David burned it after. Ashes scattered in the stream, a ritual release, his shoulders lighter post-embers. Our life wove humanistic tapestry. Mornings mending fences, literal and figurative. David wrenching on salvaged bikes while I tended bees, their hum a balm to old wounds. Romance endured, evolved, picnics in alpine meadows where we'd shift for lazy chases, collapsing in laughter-tangled limbs, stargazing on the saloon roof, his head in my lap as I wove tales of constellations as shifter ancestors. Orion the enforcer, he'd quip, fingers interlacing. And you, the beta who stole his heart. Intimacy remained sacred fire. Sun-drenched afternoons in the tub, water steaming as bodies aligned, slow rhythms building to crescendos of shared breath, twilight romps in wild grass, alpha strength yielding to beta grace, climaxes echoing avian calls. I love you, he'd affirm post-bliss, no qualifiers, pure, unadorned. Yet drama lingered, subtle as summer storms. David's rogue past resurfaced in nightmares. Claw's phantom on skin. Marco's betrayal replaying. I'd wake to his thrashing, soothing with murmurs and massages. But one night, crested. What if I revert? He confessed, voice small in the dark. Alpha instincts, they pull. Demand I lead, conquer. You deserve peace. Not my chaos. I lit the lantern, its glow gilding his doubt-lined face. Peace isn't absence of storm, it's dancing in it. With you, my hand trailed his chest, over heartbeat erratic as fawn. We're past disguises, yours, mine. Raw and real, he surged up, kiss fervent, tumbling us into sheets. Lovemaking was exorcism, urgent, then tender, his body a canvas I painted with devotion, erasing ghosts with gasps. Promise me, he panted, deep within, we face it together. Always, I vowed, release crashing like waves, binding us anew. Autumn brought visitors, Theo and Jax, bearing news, Midwest packs ratifying accords, betas voting in councils, omegas unchained. Your spark, Theo said over cider, clapping David's back. The rogue who loved across lines, David flushed, pride mingling with humility, and later, alone, he admitted, feels undeserved. I followed you. We traveled then. Circuit of havens, Badlands reunions, Colorado outposts, sharing testimonies. In a Denver basement, before wide-eyed pups, David spoke, strength isn't fangs or fire, it's choosing vulnerability. Elias taught me that. Applause thundered. My heart swelled. Love's depth oceanic. But climax's final thread unraveled in November, anniversary of my unmasking. Snow-dusted peaks as we hiked to a lookout, Chicago's distant lights a faint memory. David halted, breath clouding, pulling a small box from his jacket carved wood, beta crafted. Inside, twin pendants, silver crescents etched with intertwined wolves, gray and black. Not rings, he said, voice rough with nerves, but bonds. Marry me? Not Packway, but ours equals, forever. Tears froze on lashes. Yes, I breathed, clasping his hand as he fastened mine. The kiss that followed was apotheosis. Wind-whipped, soul-deep, bodies pressing as if to merge. We made love there on the ledge, coats buffer against stone, urgency laced with joy, his alpha roar softening to beta size, our union a defiant hymn. Winter deepened our haven, holidays improvised, solstice feast with allies, toasts to fallen illusions. Marco arrived unannounced, gaunt but grinning, reconciliation tentative over eggnog. Cousin, David said, embracing stiffly, welcome home, forgiveness, humanistic grace, mending what blood broke. Spring heralded renewal, our first garden sprouting, bees thriving. David proposed expansions, a school for shifter youth, teaching equity over empire. I wrote our story, anonymized but true, circulating as whispers from the ghost town, tales of disguise, betrayal, love's triumph. Years blurred, but emotion's core endured. On our 5th anniversary, atop the same lookout, gray streaking our hair, we shifted, wolves entwined under aurora veils, howls harmonizing freedom. Human again, wrapped in each other, David whispered, born beta, became my alpha. I smiled, heart full. And you, my eternal rogue, in America's vast wilds, we'd carved space, not perfection, but possibility. Humanistic end, no tidy bows, but lives richly lived. Love the ultimate rebellion. For in unmasking, we'd found not just survival, but each other free at last. Epilogue whispers, pups of our own, adopted betas blooming under equal suns, packs evolving, Marco leading reforms. But ours? A quiet legend, etched in stars and scars, proving that amid alpha's roars, beta hearts beat loudest.